Here at Chris Mannix, we're going viral. Check out Donovan Mitchell spending some time with the Mets yesterday. Looks like the 22-year-old star has a fallback career. Mets could certainly use him. Donovan Mitchell's dad works for the Mets, so perhaps it all runs in the family.
Oh, look at that.
That's a good swing there.
I love Donovan Mitchell. Get him some help in Utah. That guy deserves to be going deep in the playoffs.
Or get the Mets some help in New York. Either one.
Yeah, that sophomore class didn't have a great season. They need to be playing some baseball this offseason. They weren't good, Nick.
No, they weren't. And listen, and Donovan Mitchell, part of their struggles in the postseason were Donovan Mitchell's inefficiency in the postseason.
But he needs another scorer. Like, teams are loading up on him. Like, you need somebody to give him more offense.
100%.
That's your Utah Jazz talk for the day.
Absolutely. And your New York Mets talk for the month.
For the month. And I can go on, but I got cut off twice. So I'm going to leave it at that. Hey, let's talk about the Eastern Conference Finals. Game 5 tonight in Milwaukee. Series tied at 2 games apiece. Bucks dropped the last 2. Only the second time this season they've lost 2 games straight. They've not dropped 3 in a row yet, and they don't plan to start tonight. That is if they can stop a hobbled and overworked Kawhi Leonard. Chris Mannix, are we worried about the Bucks after losing 2 in a row?
I would just say this first. Shout out Kawhi Leonard, who is really hurt. Like, he's playing through something that they won't.
Do we know what exactly it is?
I don't know. I spent some time in Toronto after Game 4 talking to Danny Green about it, and he kind of insinuated that it had something to do with the previous injury. But, like, they're under
the one in San Antonio, the quad injury.
He sort of insinuated that might be the case. But whatever it is, it's real, and that they look at him every day in the locker room like, are you going to be able to play? Are you okay? So we'll probably hear about it after the fact, what it actually is. Like, the Bucks, though, you can say the supporting cast has made a difference in this series. First 2 games, Brook Lopez was going crazy. The Bucks were getting good contribution from their bench. Game 4, Fred VanVleet was terrific. The supporting cast for Toronto was great. But if I'm looking at something that one player specifically, it's Eric Bledsoe. Like, the Bucks have an Eric Bledsoe problem right now. And he has been, this is the 2nd straight postseason where Eric Bledsoe has struggled. And this is a guy that they committed 4 years, $70 million to, effectively saying that you are Giannis's point guard for the rest of his current contract with Milwaukee. And he's been bad to the point where you get into the 4th quarter and he's almost unplayable because he can't make perimeter shots. George Hill is a bigger factor in the late in games than Eric Bledsoe is. Malcolm Brogdon is a bigger factor late in games than Eric Bledsoe is. That's a guy that over these next 3 games, they're trying to pump him up. They're trying to, like, breathe life back into him publicly, but he's got to play better. That's the wild card. If Eric Bledsoe continues along this style of play, Toronto's going to win this series. Because Kyle Lowry, too, has been great in this series.
And you guys have heard me say similar things to this before. Here's the good thing the Bucks have going for him. It is impossible for Bledsoe to play worse. He's not shooting a bad percentage. He's shooting an impossible percentage. He's 24% from the floor, not from 3. He's 10%
You
from
use
3.
that. You use that, and I always come back and say, it can get worse, Nick. You know what? He can play game number 5 and game number 6, and the coach can bench him the way he did in the 4th quarter. So, like, it can get worse.
I understand that, but man, it'd be tough. Like, if he has a 3 for 8 game, 1 of 3 from 3, that skyrockets his percentage.
He might not even get 8 shots tonight.
No, your point that they have to now, the Bucks, for the first time all year, and I know there's a great point you brought up earlier, Giannis can say we're going to do what we do. The coaching staff cannot. In regards to it is now, this isn't a must-win game for Milwaukee, but it's the closest thing to a must-win game they've had all year. Game 5 in the series tied 2 games apiece. I don't think it can be a must-win game for either team, but it is the most critical moment of your season. And so if you have a player that is struggling that you would usually let try to play through it, you cannot. If you have a guy that you want to keep, like the way Bud has been very judicious with Giannis's minutes, you need to have a little looser hand on as far as letting him play 42, 43 minutes if he can and if you want him to. Milwaukee can look at this one of 2 ways. They can look at the optimistic way, which is, man, we're double overtime away from being up 3-0 and having the series over. The pessimistic way is we kind of stole game 1. Game 1, we were outplayed for 3 quarters and then killed them in the 4th. We're also a 4th quarter away from potentially being down 3-1 in this series. And so Milwaukee has an issue that every team is going to have when they play a team with Kawhi Leonard on it, which is he can almost eliminate your best player, unlike any perimeter defender we have seen in this league since Scottie Pippen, where he can just say, I am the rare generational non-rim defender who can actually dramatically affect percentages, dramatically affect how you want to run your offense, because that is the type of defensive presence I am. Marcus Smart's first team all defense, and I'm happy for him. He can't do that. The greatest defenders in the league can't do that except for Kawhi Leonard. Where
the series is right now, Chris Mannix, how much does experience factor in, or the lack thereof, for this Bucks team?
I think experience benefits Toronto greatly. Yes. Because of what Kawhi's been through. And I look at up and down the Raptors roster. They've had a lot of postseason failures, but they've been to one guy and one team. Like when they've played other teams in the playoffs, they've had a lot of success. And I bring up Kyle Lowry because he has been maybe the most maligned guy of the bunch that's still there over the last few years. He is dramatically outplaying Eric Bledsoe in this series. Yes. He has accepted the challenge of picking up the slack for Kawhi. When you go inside that locker room in Toronto and you talk to these guys about Kawhi, they know that he's not the same player. It's hard to see out there at times on the floor because, as Serge Ibaka told me, he just kind of plays at his own pace at all times. Yes. So you're not entirely sure what's wrong with him at given moments, but they see it out there. And Kyle Lowry in I think three of these 4 games has really stepped up and made big plays for that team. So the experience on the Toronto side, I think, is more valuable than maybe the inexperience on the Milwaukee side.
Well, we're going to see the experience of the head coach to see if he makes some adjustments, because you can't continue to have a regular season philosophy when everything changes in the postseason. The number one thing that I'm probably going to change is I might put Brogdon back into the starting lineup. He's been impressive. Didn't have a good game number 4, but in every quarter that he's been in, except game number 4, he's been outstanding. So we can't forget what a good player he was before they got hurt. And I got to change my philosophy as far as Giannis. Their typical, how they're going to attack Toronto and Kawhi, they give Giannis the ball at the top of the key, have him try to penetrate to be able to either get to the rim or dish out. That's what they did all season. The difference is now he's not getting a great shot. So you know what I do? Get the ball to my point guard. I tell Giannis, go in the low box, and I throw him the ball 3 to 5 feet away from the bucket. Don't have him dribbling to Kawhi. That's his strength. All right? He has an advantage when he plays against front court players, Giannis, out on the perimeter. He does not have an advantage playing against Kawhi on the perimeter, trying to put the ball on the ground. So put him on the box with a live dribble and have Kawhi defend that. I believe he'll get a favorable whistle, and he's got to be able to go to the line and be able to knock those things down, Chris.
And, Nick, you said, I think it's a must-win for Milwaukee. I don't know how they go back to Toronto for a Game 6.
They've only lost 2 games twice this year.
And they've never lost 3 in a row. I understand your guys' points entirely. The reason I do not think it's a must-win for Milwaukee is because they have home court, they have the best player, and they are the better team. So
they don't have the best player. Okay. Kawhi's been the better player in this series.
Kawhi was certainly the better player in Game 4 and Game 3. Giannis was certainly the better player in Games 1 and Games 2. So we can do the tail of the tape if you want. I
don't think there's a team in the NBA have home court advantage game number 5. If they lose that, because it's the best of 3 now.
Yeah.
You know, you want to get a chance to take advantage of your home court. That's, man, game number 7 at home. That's why this game becomes a must-win game, Chris.
And just to button up the Bledsoe discussion, when the dust settles on this season one way or the other, this series and this postseason is a referendum on Bledsoe, because this Bucks team is about to become extraordinarily expensive. Yep. Because you have
Malcolm Brogdon,
you have George Hill on an $18 million non-guarantee where you have to decide whether to keep him. If Eric Bledsoe can't show that he's capable of being a championship-level point guard, you might have to think about life without Eric Bledsoe.
All right, Chris, we'll see you later in the show. Take a break coming up. Are we already seeing signs of Antonio Brown and John Gruden? That's next.
Are we making a list with Jason Tatum?
No, man. Most overrated players in the NBA.
Where's your list?
He wasn't busy yesterday.